The U.S. housing market has nearly 500,000 more sellers than buyers. And
Mm-mm.
yeah, this is the most that we've seen since 2013. And this is coming from a Redfin news article. So in the article, it states that there's currently about 34% more sellers in the market than buyers. And at no other point in records dating back to 2013 have sellers outnumbered buyers this much. So, in other words, we're in a buyer's market.
12 years.
Yes.
Lord have mercy.
And Redfin is expecting home prices to drop 1% by the end of this year as a result. So prospective buyers might be seeing a slight increase in their purchasing power. Prospective sellers could, or maybe should consider selling a little sooner rather than later because it's no telling how long that decline might last. I personally don't expect it to last that long, but you know what? I've been wrong before. It could last longer than what I think it might last, especially with, builders, at least in Atlanta, building so many houses. That's going to help increase the inventory, which might also help push home prices down a little bit further as well. So we're not going to get back to the pre-pandemic prices. So if you're thinking home prices are going to get cut by like 30%, 40%, that's not going to be what happens. But we are going to, in a lot of metro areas, see a decrease in the home prices and everything. So,
I would consider a 30% drop to be a crash.
oh,
We
definitely a
actually
crash.
don't want that.
I would say a 10% drop would be a crash
A
because that's still a
crash.
huge,
Yeah.
that's still a sizable drop. If you got a 40,000 or $400,000 house and all of a sudden it takes a
Hmm.
$40,000 haircut and is worth like 360. I mean, it's not massive, but still, it's 1%, okay, we're still, moving. But if there's a 10% drop, all of a sudden I'm also looking at, okay, well, who's going out of business? Because you got builders that were building homes to sell at a particular price that they could get their money back. And if those homes now can't sell at that price because the housing market's just not gonna, support that valuation, then someone's going out of business or a bunch of people are going out of business, across different areas of the real estate and finance industry. So,
You're gonna be in your house for a while. If and at that point it will become a seller's market again.
yeah.
I guess, because sellers, they're not gonna be the inventory, people just aren't gonna put their homes up for sale. They're not gonna be able to.
Mm-hmm.
Because not only would they not barely be breaking even, but they probably would end up owing money if house prices drop by, like you said, even a 10% valuation. Because right now, the majority of sellers in the market are breaking even once they pay their agent and their mortgage off. So, what is going to be the motivation to? Because at any given moment when you have sellers in a market, you have two or three different kinds of sellers: sellers who are just testing the market, sellers who have to move, and sellers who really don't have to move.
Mm-hmm.
So it's crazy that we have so much inventory. But I know one reason why is because a lot of buyers are just hesitating. um,
Yeah, there's a lot of buyers on the fence right now. A ton of buyers on the fence that are just, I don't know what they're waiting on, honestly, because it's like,
no good time to buy.
I've heard that question so much. It's like, it's always a good time to buy. Just pull the trigger and buy the home. And
Hmm.
it's not the end of the world. Like, people think that, this is like the 8 Mile song with Eminem. You only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to. It's like, no, you get shot after shot after shot. Like, this does not have to be a one and done. You only get one home in your lifetime to buy. Two, maybe. It's like, no, you can buy as many homes as you can afford to buy. You can buy and sell and buy and sell and buy and sell. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like people are so afraid of making a mistake when it comes to buying a home that they end up making a bigger mistake, which is never buying a home. So I think that fear ends up costing people a lot more than what it would have cost them if they would have just purchased maybe a home that wasn't the most ideal, but it's still something that you can make work for you.
Yeah, the for me, in all honesty, I tell people there are, in my opinion, there's always going to be a good time to buy
Mm-hmm.
because you are acquiring an asset that will appreciate in value. A good
Mm-hmm.
majority of the investments that people make or the assets that they buy, including cars or especially cars, are depreciable. They're
Yeah.
depreciable assets. The assets that they buy to help them with their business, they're all depreciable. But a home is one of the very few home and land, real property, basically, is always going to appreciate in value. So I don't think that there's ever a bad time to buy. But in
Mm-hmm.
all honesty, I will say that there are less than ideal times to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just depending on what's going on in the market, what the interest rates are. Sometimes it is better to just hold on to your home,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you've been in it 3 years, at the 3 year mark, 3 years or less. you know, it would be better to just hold on to it and rent it out if that's an option. If you really just are not happy where you are. And then a lot of times people they're not going to be able to qualify for another mortgage. So you may end up having to rent somewhere or work out some other kind of living arrangement if you just absolutely can't stay in that house that you purchased. But do all that you can when you're in that. Honestly, at this point, it's really the 5 year or less mark. You're just not going to have enough equity to be able to break even. You're probably going to end up owing tens of thousands of dollars. And not just you, but the agents involved, everybody is going to lose. So there are bad times to sell, but I don't think that there are ever bad times to buy. You may have to adjust, like Frederick just said, maybe adjust the price point or
Mm-hmm.
adjust the way that you're purchasing the house. Like earlier today, Frederick and I did an event, and you were talking about mortgage notes, how you got into doing in the mortgage industry
Mm-hmm.
because you were actually investing in mortgage notes,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I had heard about that before, but I couldn't have told someone what that was.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that that's also one of those alternative ways to purchase homes for maybe not market value. So there's just never a bad time to buy real estate.
Yeah, and there's a lot of ways that you can get into it. So I mean, get creative, and there's creative financing solutions out there that you can tap into as well. So there's money that's available out there, especially if you're a first time home buyer. Matter of fact, Jilly, you talked a lot about that today as well with the down payment assistance options that are out there. I mean, if you want it, there are ways to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And in this article, they also put that 31 of the top 50 metros are buyer's market. The strongest buyer's market is actually in Miami, where sellers outnumber buyers 3-1,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very strong buyer's market. But the strongest seller's market is actually in Newark, and the most balanced market they're saying is in St. Louis. So if you're in Newark, you might have a slight seller's market there. And if you're in St. Louis, I guess people are moving to New Jersey or Newark, New Jersey. But St. Louis a little bit more balanced. But Miami, maybe not the best time to be trying to sell a home because you got all these sellers you're competing with for this small pool of buyers. So it's Miami though, so I'm sure Miami will come back at some point,
Right.
either before or after the next hurricane. Um, I mean, Florida just seems to get the worst of all of those hurricanes year after year. It's not every year, maybe every other year. But yeah, it's crazy out there. And so they also say that the condo market is heavily in favor of buyers. There are 83% more condo sellers than buyers. Think about that. That is huge. To me, when I read that, I was looking more or thinking more along the lines of timeshares, because you get people that get roped into these timeshares, and then it's the hardest thing to get out of. It's the hardest thing to get rid of is a timeshare, because no one wants to buy that from you. And so when I read this about condos, it more or less reinforced what I already, my thoughts on condos anyway. I'm just not a fan of condos. If you want to own a condo, great. I like to own the ground underneath my feet, not just the airspace, in between the four walls. But yeah, there are 83% more condo sellers than buyers. And by comparison, there are 28% more sellers than buyers in the single family housing market. So that just gives you an idea of about, how that compares. 83% more sellers selling condos than buyers who are buying condos. But if you go to a single family home, there's 28% more sellers than buyers. So the difference is huge in terms of, sellers who are selling condos or having a hard time trying to sell those condos versus buyers who are, or sellers who are trying to sell their homes as well. You're going to have a little bit better go at it trying to sell a home than you will trying to sell a condo. But in any case, is rougher for sellers. But some of the things that I would say on the horizon that you have to look forward to when you're in a market like this, particularly with home buyers, you have, for a lot of properties out there, more negotiating power. You may have sellers that are more willing to negotiate when it's a buyer's market because their homes could potentially be sitting on the market another couple months, if no one else comes along, with any offers. So if you have a home that's been sitting for a while and you come along with a purchase offer, maybe it may be worth it for you to try and get the seller to pay, a good portion of the closing cost, if not all of the closing costs, just to try and, help out with that sale a little bit, because the seller may need to sell. If it's the seller that doesn't really need to sell the house that bad, then, maybe they don't agree to your offer and they just hold on to it until they get what they want. But if it's a seller who, maybe needs to sell and you don't really know anyone's situation, but, it can't hurt to ask, at least for some of those concessions, because that could end up being something that helps you get into the home and reduce your upfront costs overall.
I threatened to, I fired myself today, one of my sellers. We've been on the market for 4 months. And I've shown this piece of land so many times to the point where I don't care to show it no more. And this offer is 20,000 higher than anything that we've gotten in actual writing. Like, people would see it and they would do this verbal thing. Well, oh yeah, I think it's worth 115 or 125, but nobody ever sent anything with proof of funds. Like, all your verbal offers mean absolutely nothing, people. I want you all to know that. And then even a written offer by an agent that is not accompanied by proof of funds, that still means nothing. I don't care. But this is 20K higher, and the guy, the seller is still trying to play hardball. And I was like, I felt bad because I felt almost like I was trying to force the guy's hand, but he doesn't. A lot of sellers don't understand. Like, they get this number in their brain, and I try my hardest to really prepare people before I list their properties. Like, they get this number in their brain, and they want to know what they're going to walk away with, and then they say things like, well, I could have sold it myself for that, or I could do better just trying to sell it myself. Well, then why didn't you? Why have you been wasting my time for 4 months? Like, I really highly doubt that anything that you can do, you can put it on your for sale by owner site, and you can list it on Zillow. But that's the only people that's going to see that are people who go to the for sale by owner site or who actually visit Zillow. If they visit redfinhomes.com, any other major website, they're not going to see your property. So, using a realtor in the multiple listing service, and then we don't get anything if the house doesn't sell or we end up having to pull it from the market. So at this point, I might just start charging a retainer. And like, you have to understand, and Frederick was actually, you asked me about this the other day, like, have you ever heard of realtors charging money to show homes? And it's like, man, I can kind of sort of understand why, because sometimes people just waste your time and they don't really realize that they're doing it. They think that because you love your job or that you're good at it. No, and we have to understand that, especially sellers have to understand right now, if you get any kind of offer and it's been 4 months since the last offer that you got and it's 20,000 higher, first of all, I'm not waiting around for one that's just 5,000 higher. I'm not going to host this listing any longer. And second of all, you have to take it when you can get it, when the buyers are interested. Because if only 2 people out of Frederick, I'm not telling you any lies when I tell you that in 4 months we have had 30 showings.
30? Oh, wow.
Very popular piece of property, okay?
And this is like a land with no house on it?
It has a 1,400 square foot outbuilding on it.
Okay, gotcha. But 30 showings, wow.
Yes. One offer when we first came on the market, the very first day, $100,000 cash, but they tried to make it contingent on a appraisal. So I was like, you know, either you have it or you don't. We don't want to lower the price, you know, especially on a cash sale. I mean, I'm not saying it's okay for you to go ahead and get an appraisal because you want to know that you're what you're spending, but don't make your offer contingent on it. And then, you know, months later, we get actually these people that we have gotten the cash offer from for 120 started out at 85. And then they went up to 110, and then they went up to 115, and they were like, this is our best and final offer. And when the seller refused to accept that, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to come pick up my sign and my lockbox Sunday. This is it, because I have done my job. What happened was they asked for, you know, like utility information and the last time the septic tank was pumped, and he has not produced the documentation. What a lot of sellers don't understand and realize is that when you sign your name on the dotted line, it tells you the agent's duties and it tells you as the seller your duties. And one of them is to produce documentation in a timely manner.
Yes.
These people have been waiting 4 days for a simple electric bill. And because the number wasn't high enough to him, he said he didn't want to do it. So I told the buyer's agent, I was like, well, I'm going to quit. But the buyers want this so bad. They were like, okay, we'll come up an additional $5,000. Please don't quit. Let's make this work. And so he said he was going to try to find the bill when we said that. But I still need a signature tonight. I need a signature tonight because I don't believe it, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, in this market, sellers, the highest number that you get in 4, 5, 6 months out of that many showings, you need to know when you're not going to see this again. And you need to also have a realistic expectation as a FSBO.
That part.
Please.
Yeah.
If you think you can do my job better than me, the job that I've been doing every day for 7 years, please be my guest. And don't come calling me when you get stuck with your back behind and back against the wall. As it was my job to produce a ready, willing, and able buyer. And so by all means, at this point, I have earned every dime of my check. I have, you know, spoken to people, showed the property myself, spoken to every agent, let them know how to access the property because you got it all locked and blocked up. You don't want nobody back there, but you want to. So it's a lot of people that don't have to sell, that don't need to sell. They just want to sell. And they're like, you know, I'm just going to be giving it away. I guarantee you that this price is 6 times higher than what he paid for it.
Yeah, and that's the
offer price.
And that's the part that I was going to mention too, as well as like, if you're a seller in this market right now, it's like, yeah, you'd like to get top dollar for your house. You kind of waited a little too late to sell. We're in a buyer's market right now. There's so many more homes for sale than what we have buyers that are buying. So it's like you kind of waited a little bit late. You might not get top dollar, but understand what you actually paid for the house and what you're selling it for, especially if you bought that house in 2020 or any time before 2020. You're probably sitting on a pretty penny of equity in that property. And so, I mean, let's just kind of, you know, look at things from that perspective. You bought the home for 200 and now you're selling it for 350, 400. You bought the home for 300 and now you're selling it for, you know, 500 or 450, whatever it might be. It's like, let's look at it from that point. It's not like you're actually losing money unless you just bought this home like 1 or 2 years ago. But if you bought this home like I said, in 2020, 2019, any time before that, even in 2021, homes are still going more now than what they were in 2021 because we were still coming up. The rates didn't drop until 2022, but home prices still were creeping up there, even when interest rates rose up as well. So, I mean, even if you bought that home in 21, it's like you're still probably coming out on top with when you purchase that home. So just keeping things into perspective, like, okay, you know what? I am breaking even. Let's not get greedy. You want to get your home sold, or do you not want to get your home sold? If you want to get your home sold, price it accordingly and let's get it sold. But if not, then, you know, you can be ridiculously unreasonable and, you know, people just continue to pass by your stuff. And the longer it sits on the market, the more undesirable it becomes because everyone can see, oh, this home's been sitting on the market for a long time. So if no one else wanted it, guess what? I don't have to see it to know that I don't want it either. I see that thing's been listed for like 150 days and I'm like, oh,
Low ball.
Exactly.
That's exactly what you're fixing to get.
I'm
Low
like-
ball.
yeah, it's like I'm not off. If I even take a look at it, I'm definitely not offering, you know, asking price or anywhere near the ballpark of asking price. And don't try that whole trick either of, oh, I'll just remove the listing and then relist it later so that the counter starts over. It's like agents
We
can
can
see
see
all
that.
of that stuff in the MLS. So even though it's like, oh, it's only been listed for 2 days, agents can go back and see, but this is the third time that this home
Consumers can too on Zillow.
on Zillow. Yeah, they can see that as
They can-
well.
Zillow is messing up the game. That does not work no more.
No, they can see, oh, listing removed. Oh, relisted for sale. Listing removed.
And you use the same pictures. Stop.
Or the, oh my goodness, especially in this digital age where it's like anyone should be able to go and take fresh pictures. I like when I still come across a listing and it has the picture with the little MLS logo in the bottom corner from the last time it was listed. And I was like, you didn't even go and get the original photos or some new photos? We
Well,
just,
I like when I see when I'm looking at houses on the market to try to send my buyers, and I see snow on the ground. I said, "Now hold on, we ain't had snow on the ground." And I looked 279 days on the market. Oh my goodness!
oh, yeah. Like, is it fall, winter?
Hold on. Yeah.
It's like, these was the best ones we had. It's like, I'm gonna need you to just plan a trip, clean up the house, go take some better photos, bake some cookies so it smells good in there when sellers come to look or buyers come to look at the house. And yeah. But before we wrap it up, I will just say for anyone who's interested, some of the reasons why sellers are outnumbering buyers. So I'll just run through these really quickly. One, too expensive to buy a home. So for a lot of home buyers, again, there was a huge run up in home prices through 2020 and 2021, and that outpriced a lot of buyers out of the market. And so a lot of buyers can't afford to buy. And so that's one of the reasons why you got so few buyers, is because home prices went all the way up. And now you got a lot of people that can't afford to buy because they just don't make enough money, or they've got too much debt. So their debt to income ratio is off. So that's one of the reasons. Another reason is economic uncertainty. We all know what's going on in the economy right now.
Tariffs.
Layoffs.
Tearing up the economy. Tariffs.
Yeah. People have been losing their jobs, layoffs. We know there's been the whole shrinking, or, at least the talks of shrinking the government. But yeah, there have been, companies that have been downsizing, layoffs, because tariffs cause business to become more expensive. And when business becomes more expensive, either businesses are going to charge more money, or they're going to have to decrease their expenses. And so if you charge too much money to where people can't afford your product, that's going to hurt your business. So you have some companies that just opt for decreasing their expenses, and people are one of those expenses. Because especially when you got full-time employees, that's healthcare and, taxes and all this other stuff that you got to pay for them. So
I got some hair. I spent $100 on it, and I still ain't got my hair. How do they know I'm not sitting around looking bald headed, waiting on my hair to come in the mail? I said, now it's been 4 weeks. I want my hair, and they said it's done got caught up in China somewhere. Those shipments.
I was just about to ask, was it coming across the border from
Yes, it
Mexico
was.
or was it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Just gonna cancel it. I ain't never gonna see that hair. I wanted that for my Halloween hair. It was orange and black and blonde. I really thought I was gonna be doing something, but oh well.
You got some people at you know, border patrol that's trying on new hairpiece and seeing how it looks. They taking turns. Hey, how about you put it on? See how it looks on you. We'll take some pictures and post it on Instagram, TikTok.
Yeah, they playing with our stuff at the border. They really are. They are.
That's what they're doing. They're gonna be posting videos on TikTok about it later.
They gonna be on there like this.
If this is your hair, please come claim it. we are at
That's
border
messed
patrol.
up.
But yeah, those are some of the reasons. So you got too expensive to buy, economic uncertainty. Another one is the easing of the mortgage rate lock-in effect. If you don't know what the mortgage rate lock-in effect was, in 2020, 2021, when interest rates went pretty much to zero and, people were able to get like 2%, 3%, 4% interest rates, everyone who could buy a home and did buy a home during that time frame, they were sitting on low interest rates for a while, and some of those people would have moved sooner. But when you got a house that's on like a 2-3% interest rate, you like, I don't want to sell because I don't want to lose this rate.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to let that rate go, so you're like
Talking like $1,000 a month note on a $300,000 house versus now $2,000 or $2,100 for a $325,000 house.
Yeah, that rate makes
Ain't
a
no
difference.
comparison.
Especially when you look at the fact that if you were to, let's say your home is worth $400,000, doesn't matter what you paid for it. If your home is worth $400,000 now and you're comfortable with your payment, if you were to sell that home and try to go buy another $400,000 house, you might not be able to afford the payment just solely based on the interest rate. You can afford your current monthly payment on your $400,000 home, but you selling that home and going and buying something else with an interest rate that maybe it's not 3%, maybe it's 6%, because interest rates are between 6 and 6.5 right now. You might not be able to afford that same price home that you have right now, but we have seen that sort of easing a little bit, where I guess sellers have enough equity built up in their homes to where they're like, okay, you know what? We can afford to give up this rate. We can't hold on to it for the next 30 years. So we might as well, get rid of it. Or you could if you wanted to, but no one wants to live in one place that long. So, that's the mortgage rate lock-in effect, where, people wanted to stay in their homes and not sell. So inventory was low for a long time. And now inventory, just like that, has picked up a lot. When inventory was low, a lot of people are like, oh, we need to build more homes. We need to build more homes. And we do need to build more homes. We need more inventory to help push those prices back down. However, we also needed to have sellers who otherwise, would not have been selling their homes. We needed sellers to, sell their homes, basically, because that's where most of the inventory comes from. For those who don't know, when you are in the market to buy a home, most of the homes that are available are resales. They're not new constructions. And there are a lot of new constructions out there, but most of the inventory in the housing market comes from sellers who own their homes, who are selling them. It doesn't come from builders who are buying new homes or building new homes. So. But yeah, that's what we got for you. So now if you're in the buyer's market, I think strike while the iron's hot. Rather, go ahead, get out there, pull the trigger on a home. It's not the end of the world. If you make a great decision, awesome. If you make a okay decision, you're still better off than sitting on the fence for the next 3, 4, 5 years. So get in the game, buy a home. If nothing else,
marry the home, date the rate, right?
Yeah, marry the home, date the rate, but you can date the home too, because it doesn't.
It's true.
It doesn't have to be your only home. I mean,
you know how people treat marriage these days.
Yeah,
divorce absolutely is an option.
It is definitely an option today for most people, because it's over 50%. So.
It's crazy.
Whew, I was like, y'all should just be dating. don't even worry about getting married if that's the case. 'Cause there's a lot of legalities. I mean, you don't want to just sign up to lose half your stuff when you get out of this deal.
That's a whole nother episode. What happens when you buy a house and you married and get divorced?
Yeah.
A whole nother episode. We need to do that one because I had a guy who wanted to purchase a house earlier this year and can't and could not because he was like, well, I'm going through a divorce. Yeah.
Yeah.
Date the home and date the rate. All right.
Yep. Date the home too. Date it all. Don't get committed to these homes. Date the people, date the homes, date the rate. Just don't get committed to these houses out here. Things change. Just look for the next opportunity. But don't let these opportunities continue to pass. Do at least take advantage of, jumping in the game.
Right.
So with that, that's what we have for you. Make sure you tune in. Catch all the next episodes that will be dropping every Friday, and then tune in to Home Finance Hacks on Tuesdays. And that's what we have. So thank you for taking the time to tune in. Till next time, take care, be blessed, and we'll see you next week.
Toodles.